Without ever threatening to reach the upper echelons of the international game, Canada has succeeded in producing a number of world-class players, from Gareth Rees to Jamie Cudmore, who helped Claremont to glory in the top 14 3 years ago. But in a country where the game remains a minority sport, Rugby Canada are looking to some of the more established sports for the next generation of athletes. In Toronto at this year's trials for the Canadian Football League, there were a couple of interested onlookers on a scouting mission.
Specifically on a football basis, this is a historic sort of format of testing under very rigid conditions and seeing the physical performance of some of these players. Physicality is something we need in rugby union as well, and it's something these players are definitely showing, so they're very interesting for us to see them.
I mean, these guys are here because they want to play in the CFL, but the reality is that there's some great athletes here that won't get to play in the CFL. And from rugby perspective, if we can attract some good athletes to the game, we've got the environment now at the Centre of Excellence where we can develop them into good rugby players, and we believe we can do that pretty quickly. So for sure, there's a number of guys here that at the end of this process, at the end of the draft process, potentially face the end of their sporting careers at a competitive level, and rugby can offer them the opportunity to continue to have a high-level sporting career.
I think a lot of players here have been exposed to rugby. A lot of them have seen it. A lot of them are quite happy to smash each other with pads, so I'm sure they'll relish the opportunity to do it without.
I actually started playing rugby before I played football, and it's definitely a sport that I could see myself continuing if football doesn't work out, or even as just a pastime, leisure sport. It's a little bit easier to continue rugby than football. It's more organized and more locations, so it's definitely something I could see myself playing if football didn't work out.
In recent years, recruiting from gridiron has paid rich dividends for Rugby Canada. When the Canucks defeated Russia last November in the IRB International Series in Wales, the team contained a number of players who'd crossed over, including wing Jeff Hassler, the former running back who made the move 2 years ago.
There's definitely guys that could... the eyes did light up. Mike Shelley's eyes lit up more than mine around the front rowers. But there's some guys here that would pretty readily transfer to rugby as athletes.
I think the guys who are playing in the middle of the offensive line are probably a similar sort of height and stature that we're looking for scrimmaging, and probably display some similar characteristics as well in terms of the skills they're using in their opposed training stuff.
Rugby's a cool physical sport, and it's built for athletes, overall, from what I've seen, that definitely the athletes are the guys that excel, and there's a lot of big bodies out there, so I think that maybe I could fit in. I just lose some weight, and I think I'm athletic enough that it might be able to play, so yeah, it's just really physical, I find.
And the sevens game is also profiting. The USA's Carlin Isles has proved that the transition from gridiron can be successfully achieved.
It is important because I think what that does is it shows potential crossover athletes that there is a pathway into high-performance rugby and that you can compete on the world stage as a non-conventional rugby athlete in the game of rugby, particularly in sevens.
Rugby has the additional advantage of giving the athletes the prospect of playing for their country on sport's biggest stage.
I guess Olympics is probably the highest competition for an athlete that you could possibly participate in, so that would be an honor representing a country and competing for a gold medal on an international standard. So I mean, that'd be extremely exciting if football didn't work out.
I mean, a big part of being here is just to understand exactly what goes on here, what sort of athletes are out there in Canada. And football's not the only place where there's good athletes, right? There's track and field, there's basketball, there's any number of other sporting endeavours that we'd also like to explore for talented athletes. But if we came away from here with 1 or 2 potential candidates to join rugby with a view to high performance, we'd be very, very happy with that.